Hey, figure one. Can you make me a cup of coffee?
And the bots just keep on coming. This is another video from Brett Adcock at Figure. He posts this in association with that video. He says, we just had an AI breakthrough in our lab. Robotics is about to have its chat GPT moment. And that moment is happening tomorrow, he said in his first post. And then after that post, he had this to say, Figure 01 has learned to make coffee. Our AI learned this after watching humans make coffee. This is an end-to-end AI. Our neural networks are taking video in and trajectories out. He says, why is this so important? The reason why this is so groundbreaking is that if you can get human data for an application, making coffee, folding laundry, warehouse work, etc., you can then train an AI system end-to-end on Figure 1. There is a path to scale to every case. And then when the fleet expands, further data is collected from the robot fleet, retrained, and the robot achieves even better performance. There's no way. This is Randy now, not Brett. This is Randy saying, there's no way that you can possibly overstate the importance of what Brett is saying. Now, that importance is not only true for the impact that it's going to have on the world, because the robots are here. They're not coming, they're here. The robots will impact the world in many magnitudes more than GPT will. And thus far, the stock market is just burying its head in the ground with regard to all of this. This is Randy Kirk. This morning's video that I did on the 12 unexpected ways that bots pay for themselves in a manufacturing setting was completely underviewed. If you missed it, you won't see anybody else reporting on that list that I gave this morning because they aren't manufacturers. They haven't been in the manufacturing world for 29 years like I was. Well, maybe they'll grab my list and they'll use it, but that's the only other way. I will put a card up about this later. You can be sure of that. Anyway, please like. Right now, that's what you need to do. Subscribe, hit notify. Normal day tomorrow. We've got Brian on. He's at the electronics convention over in Las Vegas right now. So I'm really looking forward to what he's seeing over there that he's going to report on tomorrow. And of course, our normal Larry Goldberg will be joining us on the Good News Monday night. And of course, we have After the Bell tomorrow morning. All right. And of course, you want to buy your Cybertruck, your bottle opener and refrigerator magnet. Lots more orders still coming in, reorders coming in. Had another reorder for 3 today. So keep those orders coming in. You know the deal. If you don't remember what the prices are, just go down to the description. It's all laid out there exactly what you need to do. All right. BEV sales were up in November. They're now 13% of total car sales worldwide, 13%. So you realize now that if that goes up by 50% again next year, we will be at almost exactly 20%. If it goes up 20% after that, 50% after that year, which I think is very likely, you'll be at 30%. All right, now that's 30% in 2025. 2026, you would be closing in on 50%. 2027, you'd be closing in on 75%. And in 2028, the ICE world would be over, which is what I've been projecting for a very long time. Sometime later this month, I'm going to do another video again where I break that down by car, make, and model. No, I'm sorry, by car make, not by model. That would be too difficult and too confusing to even look at. But I'll look at it by car make because things have changed a lot. Last year, I thought that General Motors and Ford, Volkswagen, Toyota would all be a bigger piece of the 2027 pie. Now I'm going to have to cut back those numbers, but the Chinese are going to be a much bigger piece. And I do believe that the Kia and Hyundai are showing what I originally planned, but maybe even more so than I was earlier expecting. All right, from Holmar's Holmar's blog. What about Elon and all these drugs he's consuming? Oh my gosh. Well, this is what Holmar's blog was repeating that Elon Musk said about that. He said, after that one puff on Rogan, I agreed at NASA's request to do 3 years of random drug testing. I'm going to paraphrase here. Not during that time, during all that drug testing, not even trace quantities were found of any drugs or alcohol. I was going to write the following from my own research. Now, see, this is about the specifics of what they were reporting in that Wall Street Journal article that was horrifically written. I mean, it was just a terrible job of journalism. There was no context. There was no analysis of what they were saying. There was no anybody taking the opposite side of the viewpoint. It was 100% skewed in the direction that the writer wanted to go, and that the Wall Street Journal's editorial board decided, hey, this would be great. This would be great journalism. It was horrible journalism. It's so typical of what we're seeing today. Well, Dr. Jack 16 said what I was going to say so much better, so I just decided to grab what he said. He says, it never fails. These hit pieces against Elon and his companies always occur when Tesla is about to make a run. Let's break down these drug issues one by one. He says LSD, ecstasy, MDMA, mushrooms have all been shown to be safer than alcohol and tobacco if taken in small quantities, and if one knows for sure that it is that they know what it is that they're taking. There's a lot of data showing that a lot of data showing that the effectiveness of these drugs in treating various psychiatric issues such like OCD, PTSD, and depression, anxiety, etc. He says, I highly suggest reading Michael Pollan's book on how to change your minds, as it takes deep dives into the research and safety behind hallucinogenics. It would be interesting to do a head-to-head study comparing, say, some of these some of these various things like mushrooms and MDMA, comparing them in head-to-head studies against drugs like Zoloft or Paxil. In fact, I think those studies are already being done. Ketamine is used in anesthesia for chronic pain management for horrible pain issues like complex regional pain syndrome, and is a very good pain reliever, as well as an amnestic anesthesia. The issue is that it can raise one's heart rate and blood pressure. So this would have been lovely, a doctor chiming in on where we are on hallucinogenics today. Look, I'm a solid born-again Christian. I don't like mind-altering substances at all. I take none. I've never had a drug in my life. I did used to consume alcohol, but I've never consumed a drug in my entire life. So I have some very strong beliefs about it. I'm also extremely conservative. I'm not likely to be going towards any kind of weird drugs that might hurt the population. But I tell you, I am tempted myself to follow what most of the Silicon Valley is doing right now in taking micro doses. I haven't done it. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I will tell you, it is tempting because they seem to be perfectly fine and taken under control. I don't know for sure, but I do know for sure that Emmett Peppers is reporting that the top statistic that should trump how we interpret any news reporting is this: only 3.4% of media journalists today identify as Republican. In 2014, it was still only 7%. 50 years ago, it was 1/4. So what does that tell you? And I don't know why the liberal establishment and the progressives and the rest hate Elon so much, except you know what happens when somebody leaves the club. If you've got somebody in your club and they leave, usually they get ostracized. And that, I think, is part of what's going on with Elon. But Elon is doing more to help the environment, more to deal with the issue of sustainability, more to deal with the issue of CO2 than any human on Earth. And yet he is completely vilified and ostracized by the left. And I just can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on. I know why he's ostracized and vilified by the right. That's a story for another day, but I have talked about that in multiple videos in the past. All right. So BYD unit sales lead is completely irrelevant. It matters not at all. Doesn't matter if BYD sells more units than Tesla does. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter because we need everybody to be in the game. Apple has not been the leader in the sales of smartphones for a very, very long time in terms of unit sales. Now, quite frankly, at this point, their average selling price doesn't matter either, even though it's far less than Tesla's. Their margins don't matter. Their profits don't matter. I could care less about any of that. What I care about is Tesla's margins, Tesla's ASP, Tesla's profits. And it's not really about the competition between them and BYD because somebody's going to have to make 50% more total units next year in order to have the 50% increase that these S-curve is implying. We've been seeing it now for years and years and years, this 50% increase, and it can't be Tesla by themselves. So next year, will BYD sell 50% more cars than they did, more pure BEVs than they did last year? Probably not. Will Tesla? Maybe. Looks like they could even do better than that if they decide to advertise. But if they don't, they'll get close. They'll be in the ballpark. But what does that mean? Well, it means a bunch of other Chinese manufacturers are going to have to fill in that hole. It means a whole bunch. It means that the South Korean manufacturers are going to have to fill in the hole if Elon and BYD don't make enough to completely fill up the demand for 50% more BEVs in 2024. So we'll see what happens. But in the United States, I'm counting on the fact that the great middle of the country is going to start increasing their demand, and that is going to help Tesla sell a lot of Ys and a lot of 3s next year. And that's going to have a big impact on their sales and profits that I think we will all be thankful for. Okay, so what's happening next week? And this is what we do every Sunday night, of course. We talk about what's coming up in the week ahead in terms of all these reports and things that are coming out. So we start on Monday with consumer credit. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. The street is believing that consumer credit numbers are going to go up dramatically. This must not be seasonally adjusted. It is looking at November's numbers, and they're looking at November's numbers going up by $8 billion. I mean, up to $8 billion from 5.2 the previous reporting period, which would be the month before in October. I don't know why these consumer credit numbers are so far behind. It would seem like they could have December by now. Don't know. Can't tell you. All right. Then we have on Tuesday, and by the way, consumer credit going up in November would be kind of expected, but that's a big jump. So I'll be interested to see what happens with that. Then we've got the trade deficit. They're saying the trade deficit is going to stay almost flat. That's what the street's believing, at around 65 billion. We're seeing on Wednesday, wholesale inventories are expected to be, what is wholesale? Wait a minute. This is going down another 0.2% based on these information we got from Kathy Wood the other day. And if you didn't see that video that Larry and I did on Saturday morning, you need to go back and take a look at it. It was by far the most interesting and valuable video that we've ever done on a Kathy Wood report. Lots of shocking information, including the fact of how high inventories remain. I had no idea that retail and wholesale inventories were still way up here. So having them drop at this point is not shocking. Then we have on that afternoon, we have New York Fed President John Williams speaking. We know how much fun that always is. All right. So then on Thursday, we get initial jobless claims. Those are expected to go up. I think this is hopium at this point because they keep hoping that the jobless claims will go up when they do the survey, but they never do. So we'll see what happens this week. Then we got the CPI. All right, here's what's expected. It was 0.1% last month. The street or the people they survey are expecting it to go up 0.2%. That would be a 2.4 year over year. I mean, I'm sorry, on an annualized rate. That certainly would still be fine. I don't think anybody would complain, even though it's showing a trend upward. I have no idea whether this is likely or unlikely at this point. They're showing the core actually coming down, which would be more important. So last month it was 0.3 or a 3.6 annualized rate. They're thinking it comes down to 0.2. that same 2.4 annualized rate. That would be a very good number if that happens. I think the market would rally on that news. Year over year, they're expecting the headline number to be at 3.3 compared to last month, 3.1. That would, of course, always be due to changes versus last year's reporting period, much more so than what's happening on the month over month change. And then the core, they're expecting that to come down from 4.0 to 3.8. Again, this would be good news for the Fed, but I think the drop to 3.8 might be understated. I think we might see a larger drop than that. All right. Then we've got the a budget statement. I don't know what that. I'm sorry. The budget. Again, you know what? I'm not sure what I'm talking about, so let me just keep going. I don't ever like to say anything on this channel that I'm not really clear on what I'm stating. So, and then on Friday, we've got the PPI. Last month, it was 0. It was completely flat. This month, the street, the people they ask us are expecting to go up 0.2%. This would still be fine, especially when you look at it over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It's been very, very low. And then the core, the core PPI, they're also saying last month it was up 0.1%. This month they're saying up 0.2%. Again, all of that should be fine with the Fed and also with the markets. Let me grab my phone over here so we can see where the markets are now. By the way, a lot of stuff happening over the weekend. Oh, I missed something up there? I didn't tell you that the Congress has come up with a budget. They've come up with an agreed upon budget. Apparently they know they have the votes. So that's going to be a positive thing for the markets on Monday morning. I'm wondering if it's affecting them even now. So let's go take a look. What we've got in the pre-market is we've got the Dow. This is a reversal of the last few weeks. We've got the Dow down 0.13 or 48 points. We've got the S&P up 0.11 or 525, and the NASDAQ up strongly, up 28.25, up 0.17%. Now, my expectation would be, at looking at this, that bond yields would be dropping, causing this kind of action, because the government agreeing on a budget, I don't think would create this activity. My expectations on the federal government agreeing on a budget would be that we would see kind of an across the board increase. Okay, so let's go back, see what's happening with bonds. We have bonds up 1%. We got one basis point, so not really much change at all. We've got that's on the 10-year. We've got the 2-year flat, almost flat as a board, and we have got the 2-month flat, slightly down, the 2-year slightly up, but the ones that are all up, well, one basis point are the 3-year, the 5-year, the 7-year, the 10-year, and even the 30-year is up almost a little more than a half a basis point. All right, so not a lot of activity right now in the bonds. So why is the NASDAQ strong and the Dow dropping? Maybe people rethinking what they've done last week, maybe, so if you have the NASDAQ, you would have bargain hunters potentially coming in, and on the S&P and the Dow, you might have people that are profit taking. So last week it was pretty strong the opposite way. So maybe this is a reversal of what was going on last week, having nothing to do with bonds. Anyway, do we ever really know? All we can do is make some speculations based on what we can see. All right, we got oil flat. Brent is up a little, but West Texas is unchanged, actually exactly unchanged at this moment. Natural gas down a little bit. That we know we've seen all that fluctuation. We've got gold up a teeny tiny bit, basically flat. Copper up 0.18%, but that again, that's 0.18%, not 18%, 0.18%. So again, pretty flat. We've got the dollar flat as well, and we've got Bitcoin flat as well. I mean, it's like all flat, except for the Dow being down 49. I mean, that's, it's not insignificant, and the NASDAQ being up 32. So that's the most interesting thing happening here in the pre-market, is how that part is going. Of course, we don't have any Tesla after hours or pre-market trading right now. So we don't know. But what I would expect tomorrow morning from Tesla is I would expect potentially a little bit of a downdraft over this whole drug kerfuffle. It's very sad that that is probably going to affect the markets tomorrow morning, but there's a million headlines out there about it, and people are going to see those headlines and go, well, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And so there could be some negative action on that tomorrow morning. We'll see. We'll see if, a couple of reports I've seen, a couple of headlines have picked up Elon's denial. That should tell Tesla something. That should tell Elon and Tesla something. A couple of headlines at least are picking up his denial. So if you have a PR department over at Tesla who can issue these denials, even if it's Elon, you could be the PR department. There you go. You issue the denials next day, next time, an hour later. No, this is not true. Yes, it's better than that. Whatever it is, you could be the PR department. You don't want to pay for it. If you don't want a PR department for some philosophical reason, you become the PR department. All right. Let me just say it again. The video I did this morning, I'm sorry. I'm sad that nobody, okay, it got watched. It was not bad. It was not horrible numbers, but it wasn't very good numbers considering how important it was. I listed 12 additional reasons why a manufacturer would want to get a bot. There's not, even if it can cook meals, even if it can lift granny and move her over, over to her bed from her chair or whatever. I don't care if it can do all those wonderful things. The only people that are going to get them in the early days is going to be manufacturers. Okay. The manufacturers will outbid everybody for those bots for years. And they will be lined up. They will be lined up in a way that will make the Cybertruck lineup look like small potatoes. Every manufacturer, assuming, again, I would say as long as it's no more than $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month, as long as it's no more than that or not much more than that, or if it's going to be purchased, as long as it's not more than maybe 150 grand, they'll be lined up, because anybody that's got 3 or 4 shifts will be able to put that bot to use and be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that bot based on those assumptions. Now, it may be that Tesla decides to come out at $10,000 a month, and that'll lower the TAM for a while. But maybe if they're only making 10,000, people will be willing to pay that, because if you can replace a $50 an hour worker, then you can afford to pay 10,000 a month. Believe me, you can afford to pay a lot more than that to replace a $50 an hour worker. So you want to see that. There is the card. And then, of course, hit like and subscribe and notify. And then, of course, join Patreon. I had another person join today at the $3 level, looking for folks to join. I don't care, 3, 5, 10. It's okay with me. Just love to have you on board. Just love to have you part of the team. Like to have participation in making this channel amazing, because I'm going to double this year. I'm not behind. That's not honestly true. I'm doubling, because January, February, and March are going to be easy, but I need more momentum than this if I'm going to keep that doubling going in April, May, and June. So help out, join on Patreon, just be part of the team. $3 a month. I think everybody can afford $3 a month. Hey, it's been great talking to you.